Hi and welcome back to my channel. If you'd like to see some more of my work, I do have NFTs for sale on Rarible.com. I'll drop the link below in the description. So today I'll be working on lips, teeth, and eyebrows. First I lay down the basic color areas. A little bit lighter in the center of the lips, darker as you get closer to the inside of the mouth. And then I blend that all in together. This gives you the basic shapes of the lips. Then I start with highlights. I usually do highlights and shadows intermittently and work them until I get the look that I'm trying to achieve. With fuller lips, you're going to have creases that are curved more drastically. And as you get to the center of your image, those creases will be more vertical. So the creases on the lower lip, for example, on the left side they curve a bit to the left, on the right side they curve to the right. In the center, they're a little bit more vertical. The amount of curve depends on how thick or full those lips are. And the direction of the curve is determined by where the center of your subject is. So if their head is turned slightly, those curves are going to be a little bit different. For the upper lip, those creases are a bit different. They still curve depending on how full the lips are, but they also have creases that go in various different directions. And one of the things I like to do with the highlights is if lips are wet, they're going to be more extreme highlights and not as much blending. If they're dry, they're going to be less highlights and they're going to be blended quite a bit more. If there's a little bit of lip balm, you're going to sort of find that happy medium. I lay down a crease, so a dark line for the crease, then a highlight, a white line area for the highlight, and I put them right next to each other, and then I blend outside of that. So the center isn't blended as much right where those two lines meet, but on the outside of the white and the outside of the dark line, they'll blend. On the corner of the lip there, that little white area, that indicates lip balm. And I do that, it's just a little trick that I do to indicate there is some lip balm or the lips are a bit moist. I usually do that when I'm drawing male lips because they don't wear gloss or lipstick or anything usually. So on the inside of the lip here, what I've done is put a slight reflection. That's also not in my source photo, but I like that. That little detail tends to add more realism and depth to the drawing. So I do that little trick sometimes also. Also be careful when you choose your colors, because lips aren't just red or pink. They're sort of in between. Sometimes they're even a little more on the purple side. When you're doing teeth aren't pure white, obviously. You're going to have a shadow just underneath the upper lip, and shadows in between the teeth, and shadows to indicate the curve of the teeth. Teeth aren't just completely flat, you know, towards the outer edges of the teeth, you're going to have some shadows. But because they're so reflective and they're a smooth surface, when you do add those highlights, they're going to be pretty dramatic. Make sure you place the highlights according to your photo, because that determines your light source. I usually put a highlight in the center of one tooth and maybe on the corners of some of the other teeth. I don't know if you've noticed here, but my teeth are a little bit crooked, so I went back and straightened those later on. For the color black, that's really only in the deepest part of the mouth. We don't really have black in most areas of the mouth, but the deeper you can see into the mouth, the darker it's going to be. He also has his tongue sticking out here a little bit. I use the skin texture tool on the tip of the tongue to give it that bumpy texture like you see on a tongue normally. For the corners of the mouth, I make my brush very small and dark, and go in and just barely create a line there, unless there's a shadow. So as you can see on the right side, there's more shadow because of the light source, so the right side wasn't as narrow. For the eyebrows, I use an eyebrow brush, obviously. On the left, you can see I just put down the basic shape of the eyebrow with the eyebrow brush, and it's a fairly thick brush there. On the right side here, I'm going in to do the detail work. So I've made the brush size much smaller, and I also made an eraser using the eyebrow tool and made it very small. So if I get too many of those little eyebrow hairs and it gets too dark, I can go in and erase between those eyebrow hairs and make them look more sparse. You can also blend the tips of those little eyebrow hairs where they're growing out from the skin, and that makes them look like they're growing out as opposed to just laying on top of the surface. And you can see a big difference from the left to the right when it's finished. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.